Howdy folks, Vinyl Community, Wes here checking in once again with an episode of the Vinyl Survivor. I decided since last week I didn't do any vinyl videos at all that I would hit you with two Vinyl Survivors this week, so hope you enjoy it. We're going to go ahead and get into it. This is the albums. These are albums that were new to my ears for the most part. Stuff from the inbox, new purchases, and I let you know what I thought of each one. Let you know whether they're going to be going in the permanent collection or getting voted off the island. So let's go ahead and get into this episode 110 of the Vinyl Survivor. First album I have to talk about today is the debut album from Shuggie Otis titled Here Comes Shuggie Otis. Shuggie Otis was, I believe, a cousin or maybe a nephew to Johnny Otis. And Shuggie Otis is a funk, soulful, slightly psychedelic, slightly rock and roll musician. Does sort of blends a lot of different genres. Definitely very interesting. Sometimes it's straight ahead soul music. Sometimes it's more on the rock and roll, bluesy, Jimi Hendrix kind of side. It's hard not to compare him with Jimi Hendrix, as there are some of those sort of influences there. But this is his debut album, 1970. He was 15 years old, which is pretty incredible considering the quality of the music he put out at the time, and just his guitar playing is just incredible. Definitely a cool piece to have. This is just a modern reissue of this album. They recreated the Epic Yellow label for this one. And this is another one of those sort of gold sticker reissues, the 180 gram. I think these are all from digital sources. They're not expensive, but they're also not great reissues, but sometimes this is your only option. And I wanted to just check out Shuggie Otis a while back during one of the VC swapperies. I sent an album of this to the teacher for, I believe it was the funky swappery. And I just want to check out Shuggie Otis for myself. So picked this up, really enjoyed it. Great debut album, and staying in the collection. Enjoyed that one. Next thing I have for you today is another debut album. This is the debut album from Weird Al Yankovic from 1983, self-titled debut album. Of course, Weird Al Yankovic is mostly known for his parody songs, also has some original songs. This is his debut album. This one has Ricky on it. I Love Rocky Road is on here. Let's see, My Bologna. Another one, Rides the Bus. Yeah, quite a few originals as well on here, and just a classic debut album from Weird Al. And it's funny. You get this kind of Mad Magazine cover on the front of here. Kind of gives you an idea, and this is before anyone really knew who Weird Al was. It was kind of his debut, his break into the mainstream, and now everybody knows who Weird Al is at this point. But yeah, interestingly, this was produced by Rick Derringer, and always with Weird Al albums, the music itself is really good. The playing is good. His band is great. I think he still has the original band that he started out with back in the 80s today now. So fun comedy parody kind of songs, and good playing, and I love Weird Al, and glad he's still making music and having fun and making us laugh on the rock and roll record label. Sterling and the Dead Wax does not have an initial, so I don't know who mastered this. There's also some writing in the Dead Wax. Weird Al generally puts writing in the Dead Wax on his records. And on side A, we have an accordion is a terrible thing to waste. And on side B, it says, eat your broccoli. So just fun little additions to sort of add to the record. And one of the reasons to love vinyl is all the different nuances and different things and different little Easter eggs you can have with vinyl. So that's Weird Al Yankovic's debut album, self-titled. Awesome stuff. Definitely staying in the collection, and glad to have this one. Okay, next thing I have to talk about for today is actually something from this year, 2015. Got a new release here, one of my favorite releases of the year. This is the second album from the Canadian electronic duo Purity Ring, titled Another Eternity. This is on 4AD Records. Pretty nice artwork on this one once again. Definitely they went a little more pop oriented. This is kind of like a Tove Lo kind of sound maybe. Definitely trying to go for more of a mainstream pop sound, I think, here. But it's still good. It's still very dreamy. It's still very lush and smooth and cool kind of sound. But yeah, dream pop with more of a mainstream sort of pop kind of thing, since more of the dreamy things have been creeping into mainstream pop, then they're sort of going the other way. But definitely a great album from them. I love this one as well as their debut, Shrines. Don't know which one I like better, but I've been spinning this one a lot, and it's great. It's, you know, if you like Shrines, you'll like this one as well. Great album. And nice packaging, a nice insert, heavy insert with lyrics on it. 4AD does great vinyl. Usually, another one of those labels, you know, Sub Pop does great vinyl usually. 4AD does great vinyl usually. And this one is on clear vinyl, which is, well, it's different, I guess you could say. Not a huge fan of clear vinyl, but it's different, and it fits the album artwork pretty nicely, and so I'm okay with that. But yeah, so that's Purity Ring with Another Eternity. I believe there's a download code in here as well, which I need to actually use so I can put this on my computer and put it on my phone, so I'll have it digitally. Haven't had a chance to do that yet. That's usually when I do it, is after I do these videos. So yeah, great new 2015 dream pop kind of release. Okay, next thing I have to talk about, staying in sort of the pop realm, but going back into the 80s again. This is kind of a heavy pop episode. We have the 6th album from the Eurythmics, titled Savage, from 1987. Definitely somewhat of a change of pace for them. A little more stripped down. This one is pretty much all keyboard and drums kind of sound. Very, as I said, very stripped down. Some really good songs on here. Really enjoy the title track. Savage is great. Just really, you know, good vocals, really strong vocals, good songs, and yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. It's just, if you like the Eurythmics, this is a good one to have. Printed lyrics there. It's on the RCA label. Sterling again in the dead wax, but no signature from who mastered this. So that is Eurythmics. That one is staying in the collection. Staying in sort of the 80s pop area here, we have the debut album from Rockwell, Somebody's Watching Me, from 1984 on Motown Records. Of course, features the song Somebody's Watching Me. Also had a minor hit with Obscene Phone Caller, which is kind of another kind of Somebody's Watching Me, paranoid kind of song. It's kind of funny. They both have similar themes. But through and through, this is a pretty good 80s pop album. I did enjoy it quite a bit. Rockwell is Berry Gordy's son, but did this after being kicked out of the house, had some problems with his father, but I guess they somewhat made up. They did record this album without his father knowing, so traditional Motown label, purple label there. So yeah, Rockwell, good 80s pop album. If you like Somebody's Watching Me and you want to hear some more, I'd say this is a good album to pick up. It's good through and through. It's not just that one song. The rest of the album is actually pretty good. So if you're into 80s pop music, yeah, Rockwell, somebody's watching me. Pick it up if you see it cheap. All right, staying in the 80s again still, but going to a movie soundtrack. This is the soundtrack from the movie Firestarter by Tangerine Dream. One of Tangerine Dream's more well-known pieces of music, I would say, as far as soundtracks go, more known to the mainstream. Firestarter is a pretty good movie, and the music is pretty good as well. Typical Tangerine Dream kind of stuff, very electronic, very their music works well in a soundtrack because it's sort of very not colorful. It's very sort of, oh jeez, I'm struggling for words here, but it's very dramatic, I guess you could say, is that, very dramatic electronic music, very soaring kind of stuff, and works well in soundtracks. So, yeah, glad to have found this one. And it's on the MCA Rainbow label. So that's the Firestarter soundtrack by Tangerine Dream. That one stays in the collection as well. Good stuff. Next thing I have, staying in the 80s still, we have one of the later albums by the Fat Boys. This is titled Coming Back Hard Again, 1988 on this one. This is kind of getting, as I said, near the end. It's sort of, things are going downhill at this point. In the late 80s, hip-hop was making some major changes in what was popular, what was happening. You had more of the gangster rap kind of coming in. You had more of the socially conscious hip-hop coming in. You had more of the party kind of call and response, southern hip-hop scene starting to explode at that time. So sort of this early form of hip-hop, the more simpler, more basic form of hip-hop that was more on a lighthearted note, just wasn't selling. It was struggling. So the Fat Boys are trying to sort of put on this more of an edgier image on this in points, and overall it just didn't work for them. People wanted just the original Fat Boys kind of fun, more jovial kind of songs. So you got a couple on here that did a remake of Chubby Checkers, The Twist, and then they also did Louie Louie, The Kingsmen. But, overall it just didn't work for them. But I do collect the Fat Boys, and I collect this. I have this in my collection for, I guess, completist sake. It's on the Tin Pan Apple Records label. Sterling in the dead wax on this one, and it does say promo copy not for sale on the label, and there's a gold stamp on the back of this album as well. So it's a promo copy. This is probably one of those ones where they probably didn't sell very many, so there might be as many promo copies as there are actual original copies of this album. So the Fat Boys coming back hard again, staying in the collection for completist sake, but not a great Fat Boys album, in my opinion. Next up, another promo copy out of the 80s. We have the 15th album from Neil Young titled Landing on Water, 1986 on this one. This is another one on Geffen Records. This would be released after Geffen sued him for making uncharacteristic Neil Young albums. He got signed to Geffen, and they told him he could do whatever he wanted, and he did whatever he wanted, and then they sued him because he didn't do what they wanted him to do. So kind of an interesting story there. But this is, if you're familiar with the Neil Young Trans album, where he does a lot of synthesizer work, this one has quite a bit of synthesizer work on it as well. A pretty good album for me anyway, just because I do like 80s synthy kind of stuff. I do like quite a few of the tracks on here. Hippie Dream is a great track. Touch the Night, People on the Street, I Got a Problem, and I think the last track, Drifter, is great also. I think there's some really good music on here, good songs. I know it's kind of a turnoff for a lot of people to have these synthy kind of songs from Neil Young, but I like them. I really do like the album Trans quite a bit, and I like this one as well. Insert photo and lyrics, liner notes, all that good stuff. As I said, Geffen Records. So Neil Young's Landing on Water, 1986. This one is staying in the collection. I do like the 80s Neil Young synthy stuff. I can't help it. I just like it. It hits a lot of things I like, and I like traditional Neil Young stuff. I like this 80s stuff as well. And I like his modern stuff too. I like it all. Alright, sticking in the 80s with another artist that started out in the 60s. This is Carlos Santana with Havana Moon, 1983. Yeah, what can I say about Havana Moon? It's kind of all over the place. This album starts out with sort of a Booker T and the MGs kind of blues rock kind of vibe. Sort of an 80s blues rock kind of vibe, very much like Blues Brothers kind of stuff. And then it goes into more of like a traditional Santana just jam. And then it goes into more of like an R&B kind of feel, just a traditional 80s R&B kind of very, very clean production and very, very just, you know, drum machine and a little bit of keyboard, and then it goes into more of like a, you know, Carlos Santana and Mahavishnu kind of, that kind of more jazzy kind of feel, and then it finishes off with like this mariachi song called Verda Tropical. It's just all over the place, and it does not work for me. It's just too many different genres with no way to sort of tie it together. It feels like a collection of songs from different artists. You also got Willie Nelson on here. Booker T is actually on here as well. As I said, it sounds like a sort of a Booker T kind of albums to start out with. Yeah, so while there are a few good tracks on here, overall I just did not like this album at all. Didn't work for me. And I traditionally like Carlos Santana, but I was very disappointed with this album. So Havana Moon's not going to be staying in the collection, unfortunately. Just don't need to hear this one again, in my opinion. There's the insert lyrics on it, liner notes. And that's on Columbia, being Carlos Santana, but they did do a custom label for this one, so it's better than that orange and red label that Columbia did. I don't like. Yep. Carlos Santana, Havana Moon, not staying in the collection. Just didn't do enough for me. All right, and last but not least, we have one of the last albums from this band before the last album from this band before they took a hiatus during the 90s and early 2000s, I guess. This is The Warmer Side of Cool by Wang Chung from 1989. Definitely a pop rock album of its time, but I actually quite like this album. It's as I said, it's of its time. It's definitely a late 80s pop rock album, but the songs are good here. I really enjoy the music itself. The lyrics are pretty good. There's the insert, some liner notes and lyrics again. And there is the record itself. This is direct metal mastered at Precision. And direct metal mastering works okay for this 80s kind of stuff. It's very harsh to begin with, so it's very clean and crisp, and sort of direct metal mastering works pretty well for that. So that's Wang Chung, Warmer Side of Cool. That one's a keeper for me as well. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Vinyl Survivor. Unfortunately, Carlos Santana, you have been voted off the island. Take your stuff and leave. Not a winner for me. But the rest of them are good. They're all gonna be staying in my permanent collection. So thank you for watching this episode of the Vinyl Survivor. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave me some comments. Subscribe if you're not already, so you can be kept up to date with any future episodes. Thanks again for watching. Remember, there are no bad records, only ones you don't like. See you next time. Cheers.